Greetings, everyone in the chat. Great to see all of you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us today. We're talking about a new comic that we just recently had a chance to go through and really digest. I do have to warn all of you, though. There's a bit of drama. There's a bit of controversy. I'm here to blow the whistle. Here to let it be known. Shine some light. Shine the light of truth on some of the conspirators that are afoot trying to usurp this good review. The people in the back, they've all read the book and they have opinions on it, and they're not controversial. So be ready, everybody. You've been forewarned. This is going to be just a regular, straight up, non-IBS comic review. So I hope you're all prepared. I know it's been a little while, so get yourselves ready for some actual opinions that aren't prejudiced. Yeah, we're going to be discussing Fiendish 2 by Irene Strakowski today. Really good campaign, really good creator. So professional all around. Did great work on this book. This is her second independent project. She also just recently crowdfunded issue 2.5. And I'm looking forward to getting that in hand and also going over it at some point in the future. So really growing this series and growing her name, her channel. She hangs out. She's got the creative crew. They stream regularly. And it's really a positive space. I recommend all of you go and check it out. And hopefully after you listen to the review, maybe you'll go and check out Fiendish by Irene. But in the meantime, let's jump into the chat and let's see who's here joining us today. We've got Rancid Potato, the finest of all comic readers, here with us today in Well Read's chat. Rancid Potato, can't wait to read comic books. Hal Deer, hail, great to see you. Fanta Girl, welcome. Speaking of the finest, we've got Caleb. He thinks I'm his side boy. You keep barking up that tree, buddy. Let's see where it gets you. Not too far, I don't think. Simply Green is here. Hey, Hal. Hey, well, welcome back. Good to see you. We've got Wise Guys Entertainment. Hail panel, hail chat. We'll catch as much of this as possible, but have an early morning tomorrow. Wah, wah. No dedication, Wise Guys. If you were a true fan, you'd sit here and watch the full 4 hours of this stream on the edge of your seat the whole time. No, we understand. Thank you for joining us, and it's good to see you in the chat. Corey Barton is here. He says, hey, everyone. Hey, back. Good to see you. Snuggie is here. Always ready for some good comic book fun. Good, clean comic book fun. That's what we do here. We keep it clean. So we scrub it down, make sure it's sanitized. No blood sports. So only pure comic opinions. Jav's here. He's got the countdown going. Thank you for that. We appreciate it. Good to know that you're on top of the clock. Michael Rushbrook, welcome, sir. Brand new member in the chat. It's nice to see new faces all the time. So welcome. JC, ask Renie if Ed Piskor sent her creepy text too. I'm not even sure where to go with that. I just got the lowdown. I didn't know anything about it. So it seems to be going around. It's, like a virus. A lot of people catching that. But we're all fully, I don't know if any of us are vaccinated, but we're all clean here. We keep it clean. Let me just reiterate that again. We've all got our protection. Cal May Jed said, I had a morning once. Didn't like it. Do not recommend. I don't recommend mornings either. They suck. So avoid them under all circumstances. Isn't Renie too old for Piskor? Says Richard Cahill. Yeah. Very, very astute question there. We will not be asking Renie her age. So do not troll me in the chat. I will not bend or yield to ask a woman her age. How dare any of you? Well, there is one woman I might make an exception for. Please welcome her to the stream. We have Piper.
Hi.
Hey.
Is this thing really 4 hours?
No.
Whew, okay.
Yeah. Don't worry. We're just messing with Wise Guy. He's got to show some dedication, Get himself ready.
Okay. I was in the back going, whoa, I don't know if I have the stamina.
Yeah. No, we'll probably we'll do like an hour for the review and then an hour for the interview. So yeah, typical 2-hour stream. Speaking of somebody we'd love to get on at some point for an interview in the future, I've got tons of questions for this man. Get him on the hot seat. Please welcome Michael Bancroft.
Oh, me?
Yes. It's your turn.
Sure, I'd be down.
Oh yeah. It's been a while since we had you on, so it'd be great to get you back.
Yeah, what was it? Well, I came on to review. What was it?
Well, you came on for Groken, but the last time we had you for as a creator, that was for Lucent 1.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Years ago.
It's been a while, and
Yes.
we had Risey on as a reviewer. Do you remember that?
Oh yes, he liked the Lucent. I was so shocked and pleased. I guess Aussies stick together.
Yeah. Was that what it was? It was Aussie, loyalty, or
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Oh, I don't have any other explanation for it.
No, I'm sure he enjoyed the book as well. Everybody said great things about it. So, in particular, this gentleman here that I'll bring on, big Lucent fan. Please welcome everybody, Aldous.
Thank you, Well Read. It's a privilege and a pleasure to be on yet again, and I am reminded of a line from King Lear: "When we are born, we cry that we come to this great stage of fools." So, thank you, sir.
Yeah, you're in the right place. Definitely. Yeah, you've come to find the right fools. They're all in the chat as well. So. Wise Guy still doesn't believe us that it's not 4 hours. He thinks it's going to be 4.5. I'm going to keep it a secret. It's just going to be a surprise how long the stream actually is.
He's going to Irish goodbye it.
Yeah, exactly. Some point at the 4.5 hour ish mark. Hard Irish goodbye. We've got Baz. Welcome. Hey, good to see you. Yeah, it's been a little while since we've done a review, so I'm hoping that I'm not too out of practice. Too rusty, but we'll weather it. This is a great book to talk about. Everybody's been saying great things about it so far, from what I've been hearing. I don't know about this panel though. I hear this panel is a bunch of detractors. There might be some negative opinions here.
Detractors.
That's what I'm known for.
Got the detractor beam activated. Corey wants a 4-hour stream. There we go. Yeah. All right, let's jump into the apologies into the Indiegogo. I'll bring that up.
Oh, I thought we were jumping into the apologies. I was like, shouldn't we do that after?
Yeah.
Apologetics always comes last. That's
Yeah.
You're gonna have to give me a minute, guys, because apparently I need to change some settings to be able to get this to work.
It really has been a while.
It has, and I've made some changes, upgraded. So
I appreciated the new paint in the green room. That was quality, but man, the ice machine still doesn't work already.
Yeah.
It's a little disappointing.
We gave the couch a quick rub down.
Don't use couch and rub down. That has bad connotations.
I still would have sit on it.
That's why I won't touch that couch.
Yeah. Stay off the couch, guys.
He got it on a deal from New Line Cinema.
What would be great is a New Line Cinema production of Fiendish. When are we going to start getting some movie renditions of these books? What do you guys think?
That'd be pretty bitchin'.
Yeah. I mean, just the idea.
5 to 10 years, maybe.
Yeah,
Really?
I think in a roundabout way, Fiendish, due to its style, which has a heavy manga influence, obviously, which is not my purvey at all. I think if anything has a chance of getting anything, it's something in this style. This really seems to resonate. This is what sells. This is what everybody's reading. I think you'll see something like this resonate more and get a shot before you see anything else.
And it's a huge market.
Yeah.
So definitely getting an animated production doesn't seem like a stretch. That probably
it definitely taps into that audience of webtoon readers, manga readers, that sort of thing, and it's leaps and bounds artistically above what a lot of that stuff is in terms of just the raw art. So yeah, if it catches the eye of someone, important that it needs to, I could totally see this being optioned.
Is it standard practice to just mail your books around to producers? Just take a chance and see what happens.
I don't think many places pay attention to outside submissions. I think most of the time they have to stumble upon your stuff.
Yeah, you kind of have to have an in. You got to have a guy like Lawson out there in LA that already has the connections, and it needs to resonate with him, and then he's the one that's going to slide it across somebody's desk. You gotta have that.
And I would imagine it would need to be developed first.
Yes,
there would need to be some kind of treatment done to it to present to people.
Yeah, nothing cold's going to come across and resonate. Not in this world.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, your boy Zach's got the oh man, who's the Rambo guy? Stallone. Yeah.
Damn.
I don't know if he does anymore because I think people are still waiting on the signature 5 years later. So maybe that door closed. Maybe.
Well, Dixon did Expendables, so Dixon's another one, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, those are all pre-existing IPs though. So when you're talking Expendables, those are moving the other way, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going from film to published form, and that's more IP farming to a degree. So,
plus, as someone who is creating a world and a story, there's this feeling out there that, obviously everyone would love their story to reach wider audiences with different mediums, but maybe not right now. In 5 years, 10 years, see how the current system shakes out, because most stuff getting adapted at the moment is just terrible.
Right. That's a good point. Yeah. You might not want to sell out your property, something as valuable as Fiendish. So Renie was able to gather 2,500 backers for this second issue, $200,000. So it's nothing to sneeze at. It's quite a strong showing for this campaign.
Very impressive.
Yeah. And 70 pages. So Renie grinds it out. She's working pretty much solo on this. She's the artist. She's the writer. The whole concept.
She does have a colorist. There is a colorist.
Yep.
Slacker.
Yeah, and for anybody that watches Jeremy's Saturday show, one of the things I always like to do is just do a quick analysis on any campaign. What's the per backer average when you look over what the cost or the total take is versus the number of backers? In this case, you're looking at about $80. I think if you look at her previous campaign, it's much lower. So people are coming back and they're paying more for more product. That's always a good sign for an engaged customer base when you're seeing that. She grew in backer count as well, in addition to that. So that's another positive. So this was very well received by her clientele, and she did well with it. So it was a positive. I actually did back this as well, and I was impressed, which is something I can't say for the first one. I was fairly critical of Renie in a private conversation with some of her choices on book one.
Yeah, I didn't back it. I only got it really recently. It was one of the ones that I didn't, for whatever reason, it just didn't speak to me. And I liked Renie from the moment I met her. I, no problem kind of supporting her in terms of promotion and stuff like that. But yeah, I guess I'd kind of come out of the webtoon world where there is a lot more manga influence, and I liked her art well enough. But yeah, it didn't speak to me. So I kind of came at it from a different side originally. Now I've read it completely different.
Have all of you
read? That's kind of where I was at, Mike. So normally I wouldn't back this because, again, it's kind of that manga inspired stuff. I'm not interested in it. I backed it with a friend. He wanted Simple Green mentioned it. He wanted the collector's pack. I just went in and he wanted the collector's pack. I wanted one copy. So he did that. I got my copy. But I wanted to see what she did. I wanted to see how much she listened to some of the feedback that was offered, because I know I offered some. I know a couple of my friends offered some to her, because it was her first outing and she was looking for feedback. And I was extraordinarily impressed that what she listened to and the changes that were made from the first book. And I think that speaks volumes when you see somebody that listens to that feedback instead of just rolling forward, knowing that no matter what she launched, it was going to do well, but she was really concerned about the product, and that was positive.
Yeah, reading, I got them both at the same time, and I rolled right from 1 into 2, and that was like a slap in the face, because the first one, there was a huge leap in art quality from the first to the second, and the first one was a pretty simple, kind of small in scope story compared to the second one. So it was, yeah, I was massively impressed. I noticed it straight away as well going into the second one, that okay, this is a much more impressive book.
You just recently read the first one as well. Is that correct, Piper?
Yeah. And I'm coming from a standpoint of I like manga and stuff like that. Like, that became my jam pretty early into the comics getting crappy.
Right.
So I got like way into manga and stuff. So the art style I was already like there for.
What was your high level takeaway from the first issue?
From the first issue, it felt, very abrupt, very cliche. However, there was still enough uniqueness in there to make me like I need to know what happens next.
Mm-hmm. Richard says she barely funded Fiendish 1 before she joined CG. Shane, Malin, and EBS helped push that from 8K to 60K.
Dang.
Then full CG support for the entire F2 campaign got her to 200K. So, well, I'm sure the jump, though, to 200 is to Renie's credit, because she has also worked up her own channel and her own following. And she's put in the elbow work.
Yeah, I was going to say, she's putting in the work.
Yeah. So, no downing her efforts there at all. Sorry, even Poison Ivy looks dumb with green hair. Not sure about that. Green hair can work sometimes, I guess.
Oh, I definitely like her with red hair.
Well, so how did you feel going into the second issue then?
The second issue, I was very impressed with the difference in a lot of things. And what I also thought was interesting is, even though there was still a few like tropes and cliches in there, it's kind of hard to avoid that when writing, if you want to tell the story you want to tell. But it was unique enough that number 2 feels like number 2 is genuinely pure character development. And yet it's not boring. Like, you don't realize how much action you're not really getting in the second one, because it's well done.
Yeah, there's a lot of walking, but it's tense.
Yes.
Because she's set up the world and the characters well.
Yeah.
Much like in the same way that Walking Dead originally, even when they were just walking, it was tense.
Yeah.
There was always a danger somewhere.
Yeah, if anything, I felt that there was a little bit of a rush, and this is my only criticism of this. There's a little bit of a rush to get them out of town. I guess when he goes to the blacksmith and he's getting the weapons, he's like, I expect them tomorrow. Well, they're not displayed, so you assume that he's going to make them, but no blacksmith is going to make 2 blades in a day or in half a day. So it would have been nice to have them displayed and have a moment where he looks at them and goes, no, okay, I'll be back in this evening to get them, or you need to prepare them and sharpen them. And then that would fit in better with the line when he arrives and he goes, they're not sharp enough. And then he has to sharpen them again. I just thought that would have been a nice little touch. Otherwise, it feels accelerated. The other thing was in the first book, it felt like at times, like she was trying. I told this to Renie when I talked to her about the first one. So it's nothing new that she hasn't heard. But I said at times it felt like there were scenes where it was like out of a source book for a role playing game, where you were doing these scenes for no reason other than just to have epic shots of the location. And there's only one example in this, and I thought it was actually done really, really well. And it's on pages 4 and 5, and it's just an establishing shot of the town that slowly dials in. And I really liked that because it set the tone for where you were. It didn't feel forced; it felt organic. And that was one of the things where it's like, man, this is cool. She listened. And then the other thing was the constant camera angle changes. You get a lot more on your page layouts, a lot better structure and flow with the dialogue of how she chose to use perspective. I thought that was a massive step up from the first book. But like I said, man, that page 8-9 complaint with the blacksmith, that's about it. Everything else, by the time I was done, I'm like, man, I'm done. It went really fast. It was a quick read. You were engaged the whole time. The action beats that were there didn't feel forced. They felt nice and organic and part of the story. Maybe a little bit of dialogue choices could have been improved. I know there's one line where it's like, sweet, where to, when they're going to go to the market or to get like stuff for their trip. And then when they run across bandits, there was one line by one of the bandits that just felt a little off. But other than that, I mean, excellent work overall. I was very impressed with the flow and I like to use the word liquidity. Like it just felt like water was flowing through as you're reading the story. It didn't feel forced. I never felt guided. So that was a positive.
Mm-hmm.
Can you can you set the scene for me a little bit, Bancroft? So what is the world of Fiendish, and where does number 2 pick up where number 1 left off? Give us a little bit of a summary.
Essentially, you're in this, kind of like Game of Thrones sort of land. It's not Earth. It's another place. There's actually a name to it. There's a map and everything. I think it's called Arvos or something like that. I've got the map here in front of me. And she has created, Aldous is right. She's created this world. It's got all these rules. It's got all these peoples, these races. It's like what Piper says. There's tropes. I actually love tropes. I get a kick out of them. The different kinds of characters and stuff, different races, how they interact, and all that sort of jazz.
Oh yeah, I wasn't complaining. I was just saying they were there.
Yeah, and she's essentially zooming in on this world, and she's going to tell the story of Casimir, who is an orphan because his village, when he was very young, was attacked by these monsters that no one really knows what they are. If they do, they've got to go out and find those people that do. And so he's growing up in this world anyway, it's kind of like kill or be killed, so you got to be tough anyway. So he's a pretty kind of gruff, tough, arrogant prick of a dude. That's his character, it's fine. And he's got this sort of apprentice, and they're out hunting. He gets wind of, all right, there's been these monsters might be back, and essentially they come across a caravan. They meet this little slave girl. She's a different race. Her family gets killed by the same monster. So now she's kind of, left just like Casimir was when he was young, and then so that's what happens in the first book, and then in the second book now, he's like all of these characters. We don't really know much about them other than how they behave, and now in the second book, we're kind of like what Piper said, we're learning more about their past and why they are the way they are and their interactions with each other. And they set out. So the slave girl does join them, and then they set out on their adventure. They've got to go sort of. Each one of them now has their own motive to go find out who these monsters are, and where they're from and what sort of threat they pose and everything like that. So they're all They're like that, and they also are joined by, I can't remember her name, the green lady.
Oh yeah, she's at the very end. So yeah, I forgot her name already too. Starts with R.
Oh, maybe it's here. No. Struck out.
I think because we're gonna, in the third one, we're gonna get to know all about
Ragnar.
her.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna get to learn all about her.
It's just the big, she's got the big boobies, and she does magic. She's like a sorceress. And yeah, so now you got the whole kind of troop here. You've got the gruff guy who uses axes and stuff. You've got the slave girl. You got the little his little apprentice is kind of that. How would you describe him? He's kind of too soft for this world that he's in, and he's the only one.
He reminded me a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, he reminded me a lot of like Matthew Broderick's character in Nighthawk, or not Nighthawk. Rutger Hauer film, Ladyhawk. He's a little too innocent for the world. He's still learning the rules, and he's cursed with this terrible thing where if somebody touches him, he has to experience their most tragic memory. And he experiences it with all of the emotion and all of the feeling that they did. And that's kind of
the person that touches them has to relive it as well.
Right. So it kind of removes him from the humanity aspect of it. Like he's isolated, but yet involved, because anytime somebody touches him, so he's removed slightly. So he's kind of, I would argue, like the radio character. Like things are kind of revolving around him. She's using him a little bit as a POV, because of that isolation. And I think that's an interesting twist, because it gives the chance to do these moments where somebody does touch him, as in the case of the Dave, the slave girl, and you get this moment where you see her backstory, and it's powerful, and it's a nice break for that. Like I said, it moves pretty well, but it moves better than the first one. I'd still like to see more of a concise story issue to issue, but I don't know how much of that is just me being an old school comics guy. So I'm kind of backing off of that critique on a lot of books. I know Mike kind of suffered my wrath for Lucent being that way, but this seems to be the style that I'm seeing more and more and more, where it's serial. You're going to get this, and then wait, and I'm fine with that. I'm an old 1930s, 1940s radio guy, so I'm certainly okay with that serial style. God, I'm dropping Flash Gordon serials on my feed every Sunday that Alex Raymond did back in the 30s. So I get that form of storytelling, absolutely. It's just a little bit of a change seeing it take a precedence in the indie scene. But here where it's done, it's doing well. And I was engaged, and honestly, by the end of it, I want the next issue. And that's a hook that I can't say about a lot of books.
I would describe it as manga style storytelling, partially manga style art, but Western style comic.
How would you?
Yeah, I think it flowed like a Western book to a degree.
Yeah. But the storytelling itself, that serial episodic, like that ongoing, that is a very manga thing, which is usually why I wait for everything to get collected into the
the one volumes. I read right before this was Bronze Star, which is very classic American style, very compressed. You get the whole story, and it's written in that comic book language where things just move at a clip, whereas this is much closer to what I'm used to with the European books, where it's more decompressed. Now, I've not read the manga, but people have told me, manga is like that as well.
Yeah.
So it fits in like that, and I like both. The thing about this sort of story is you can get really invested in it, because you definitely get a sense. You get this sense actually from the very first book, but it's just more pronounced in this one, that there is this huge world out there, and these are but 3 or 4 characters in it, and we're focused on it now. It's kind of that's why I sort of described it a bit like Game of Thrones. You know, you just there's this huge world with all these different places and clans or whatever, and people and races that you might not ever really meet, but they're there and you can feel it. And so I quite like that. I like having an opportunity to get invested into a world. So yeah, I like it.
No, for sure. And I think to take what your point was and add on a little bit, if I could, Mike, is when you're looking at something like this, and yes, it does have that manga style to it, but it does have there is a thread woven through it that's more connected to me, at least, and I agree with what you said as well, to that the bande dessinée. And like when I think of bande dessinée right now, I mean, I'm reading the Sumerian, which are the European style of the Conan books, and it feels like the same pacing that they've got in there, where they're building characters up, and then you're going to have epic moments. Now, we don't know if you're going to have those epic moments. We do have a really nice inclusionary moment where they build up the Snowfang, the cat, upon arrival to Casimir's home, and then in the little short action beat with the bandits, we get to see the feedback that the cat can hold its own. And you learn a little bit more about the cat and the dialogue of that. It's not even fully grown yet, which gives a playful sense to it. And that's something that bande dessinée does a lot, especially in the Sumerian, where you do the build-up moments are done in not quite throwaway lines as we'd consider them in standard Western comics. It's a simple line that gives you more information and kind of fills in those blanks. Like, well, what is this cat? Well, in the combat, you find out. In the action beat, you find out. And that is what I like. It's very well paced. I can't say that enough. The pacing is really good. And the page that actually Will Red has up right now was a really nice page. And that's where, like Piper said, you get this Western feel, because when you go to this grid pattern, it feels very Westernly structured. And you've got the fluidity of that manga styled influenced art, but structured in multiple instances throughout this in a Western book. And it was one of those things that, man, I really liked. It felt a little bit more grounded rather than this really falutin floating story that I've seen in a lot of manga that really turns me off. And there's a couple
of times you're wondering where your eye goes.
And Fearsome Bullet in the chat saying the same thing. I agree with, man. Naruto, One Piece, JoJo, etc. I'll never get the pop. I don't either. I don't get it. But what this had a Western structure to it that every time I felt like I was getting pulled out, I was pulled back in, because it was a formulated style that I was used to, and I could follow it, and I knew where to go. So I think that was part of it. But again, man, I mean, I think a lot of it just comes down to, do you really like manga, or are you more of a Western comic reader? And this is kind of, I felt, compared to one, leans a lot harder into that Western style storytelling motif with just a manga influenced art style, to kind of piggyback on what Piper was saying.
I love the combination. It's like taking the best parts from each one. Well, the art's subjective, but again, like the story style versus the paneling and the structure, it's like taking the best of each style to tell this story.
And if you ever listen to Renie on her creative block shows, she is always talking about these things that I think is a really Western, at least what I know, a really kind of Western approach to comic book layout and everything. Is like you mentioned earlier, with the flow and everything, and what they're focusing on and how they're doing it, which I don't see as much in Europe. And again, I don't really know what's going on in Japan. But yeah, if you guys are saying, okay, that's definitely a lot more American focused, I mean, that would make sense. It's funny that Renie herself is a blend of East and West self. So it kind of makes sense that what she's making is the same thing too.
Right. I did lie, Well Read. Let me just say this. I did lie. I said that was my only critique. You happened to bring up a page that I do have in my notes right now as a critique. This is so minor, but man, I hate I hate seeing white space on a page. And so when you look at the right-hand side of the page that you've got here, all three of those top panels could have been extended down. There's no reason they couldn't have. And then that inset panel, and I love that she inset the panel behind the other ones, but you could play around with that a little bit and play with it and extend that panel out on both sides to eliminate the white space. It's little touches like that I think are the separation in this book between something that's really good and really great. I think it could be really great. And that's why I'm saying I'm really looking forward to 3, because again, I see all the changes of the critiques that I had in 1, which I did not enjoy, in 2. And man, I see so much good here. And I'm thinking by like 4 or 5, this is really going to be something that's epic as she really starts to hit her stride.
That paneling style right there, that's a little bit more manga style when manga does use panels.
Yeah, to me, it's a loss. And again, that could be that Western influence. I'm a Western comics guy through and through. So when I see that, that's teeth grinding time because it's wasted.
It doesn't bother me. It doesn't
bother me. I'm used to it, but I understand 100%.
I was like, oh, that's interesting. I would never do that. You know, I just thought, oh, that's interesting. I would never do that. But hey, what do I know? You know, so it did catch my eye the way that she does panels and stuff like that. Absolutely. But you know, and I assume she has clear reasons why she's doing it, and you know, different scenes have different things, and I don't really pretend to know too much about that. I just use very simple, straightforward methods. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
Have any of you read Magnificent 7 from Mike?
No, I have not.
No.
Oh, okay.
I've only read Lone Star.
Right. No. I think we reviewed that at one point. Well, so which areas do you think play to Renie's strengths here? Because it sounds like she explored quite a few, other than, you know, her art technique and how she's doing this successful blending with Western and Eastern style comics. She also did a little bit more characterization. She was telling more backstory. It sounded like there was a lot more action in this issue as well. Where did you feel like she really shined?
There was
I'll take that one.
I was going to say, I was like, is it my turn? I think I've been talking a lot.
I was going to let it hang and see who
had I know. Who's going to jump in and eat that one?
Yeah, like, no, I want to say. So go ahead. I'm going to just do that again. All right, Aldous, you were excited. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'll say I don't think there's any one thing in this that really screams out strength. I think it's a consistently well above average indie comic book. I think there's definite room for improvement on multiple factors to make it a great indie comic book. But again, it resonates a hell of a lot more than the first book. And in a scene where I have seen the second issue have the fall off effect where it's not nearly as good as the first, time and time again, this was beautiful because I thought it really accentuated where she was going with one in a really positive way. Again, I'm a Western comics guy, so I'm going to say I think the story could have been a little bit tighter, but I was engaged throughout all of reading it. So where does that criticism fall? I don't know. I would have liked to see at least one other action beat in it. For the length of it, there was only the one, but it was a good action beat. It was well paced. The action occurred between the gut panels in the gutter line, and I could, you felt you were filling it all in your head. It really was well executed in every way. I don't think there's anything that really rises to the level of going like, hey, this is a major strength. I think it's just well executed all around.
Actually, I think the storytelling style is her major strength because that was one of the first things I praised her on was that number 2, and it's not super action based. It's super character based storytelling here. And yet you don't really notice because it's still so engaging and so good that you're not sitting there going, yeah, okay, but like they're not doing anything. They're not beating anybody up. They're just talking. Like you don't feel like that, but that's essentially what's happening in a lot of it. but you don't feel it, partially because of the flashbacks. There's one kind of actiony thing. You were on that page. I just didn't want to interrupt anybody. Where she grabs the baby and runs, and I thought that was gonna like go somewhere, and like no, the dude grabs the baby back, and baby's probably gonna die or whatever, and it was like, well, okay, the baby was a prop that we used and we're done with. I felt like it felt kind of empty, like maybe there could have been something different she could have done to piss off that dude and get in the situation instead of snatching a baby and then just, okay, here, go die, I guess. Doesn't matter anymore. Don't care. Like,
yeah, that's actually a really good point.
That is... Go ahead,
she's got the world. There is this thing happening here that we need to kind of know about. I didn't really interpret it like that as I was reading it, Piper, but now thinking about it later, yeah, you could interpret it as, okay, so she's sort of using this as a prop for us to learn a bit more about their situation in society and her as a person as well. So that
no, Richard, I got that. I got that they're showing how harsh they are towards the slaves and how they view them. But what I'm saying is just like, that seemed like a really open-ended, like, okay, drop the baby, done. And it's like, well, are you gonna do anything about the baby? Like,
but that in and of itself is a little bit of a trope, and it's a trope from American Old West films that you institute a morality question, right? You're gonna put Solomon's question down. Well, we'll just cut the baby in half, and then you see how your characters react to it. So that's how I took it. It wasn't an action beat; it's a morality beat. It's a character beat. You're establishing where Casimir stands, where Issachar stands, and where the Dave stands in relation to the world that they're in, and you're establishing each of their respective roles through one quick morality moment. And in that, you learn immense amounts about the characters, and then from that you can then see that pay off later with how they respond to the bandit, right? Because that's the role inverted. So you're setting it. It's Chekhov's gun. You're setting it, and then you're allowing it to occur. So I thought that was a nice frame out. And that's one of the things that I liked. Again, it's the fluidity. It's we set it up, and then there's the payoff, and you see that with like 3 or 4 different beats throughout this. I thought it was well done.
That's also what I'm saying. Like, there's so much to develop characters without having to put them in a lot of action sequences. A lot of this is just them preparing to leave, and stuff. And that's what I liked. I also wanted to tell you earlier, I agreed about the blacksmith, because like when I read that part, I was like, that is the fastest blacksmith I've ever heard of.
And it's
all it takes is one panel of him holding up the 2 blades and saying, "I'll be back for these tonight. Here's my payment." And that's just one panel that you can easily swap out with one of the other exchanges, and then it fits the timeline a little bit more. And it's a minor peck, but it's there, and it's the kind of thing that just kind of it what it does is it's the first moment and the only moment in this book where I paused and went, well, come on. Other than that, like, which I think occurred right after that, which was the, oh, sweet, what are we doing? Like, again, that's linguistics. That doesn't fit with the language that you've used up to this point. Those 2 moments early in that book were kind of pauses for me of, and then after that, it definitely smoothed out. If you look at book 1, I had a lot more of those. So I would say that the editing was much tighter on this for the dialogue. But those 2 moments did slip through.
Yeah, because it was my impression that he was like making them from scratch.
Do you remember who edited this one?
That fast.
Michael Oden edited this.
Yeah. Did she have an editor on the first one?
I can't remember. My copy of 1, I actually... Yeah, this is a testament to, I guess, the book itself. I sent this to a guy that's outside of our scene, and he backed based off of me loaning it to him. So that says something about it, I suppose.
No editor on the first one, and Michael Oden editing the second one.
Nice.
It's interesting how important those network connections that you can make in this scene, how crucial they are. When you're trying to do an independent project, you kind of need all the components that you typically have available to you in the industry, just by the business assigning them to you. And here you kind of have to cobble all of those things together, but also be aware that you need them. So having an editor be part of your books seems to be a crucial aspect of putting these books together, having a successful
They don't
project.
they don't
100%
only
agree.
fix dialogue either. They will
No.
tell you everything. If they're good, they will tell you everything that's not working right from the get-go.
Yeah.
You can't see really how a reader is going to read your book. You know that old thing, like George Lucas never got to see Star Wars. That's what it's like when you're a creator. You never actually get to enjoy your story the way it's supposed to be enjoyed because you're on the inside of it. You need someone to tell you what it looks like from the outside. And I say, is that what you intended? And that's like step one.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, 100% agree.
Yeah, Heather Antos is an editor. I guess people should reach out to her. You know? Yeah.
And Dan Slott's a writer, so keep that in mind.
We have that going. Well, so since characterization was so strong in this book, how strongly did you feel about the characters after the climax? Were there any that you particularly felt bonded to and you wanted to see their story continue?
Yeah, for me it was I guess totally. For me it was that one who I can't remember her name, the Daev, Yaomi, is that her name?
Yomi?
The slave girl. I mean, she really dives into her, and it's interesting with Iskall. He's the only character who has apart from Yaomi, who is essentially an abused, oppressed slave. Well, she wasn't anyway. Iskall is the only one that kind of reflects what we would understand as modern empathy and compassion. Yes. Everyone else is a complete alien to us in terms of how they view brutality and mortality and morality and all that sort of stuff. So he's helpful with kind of operating through the story and everything, but and he's the only one who has compassion for her, and Renie really dives into her story and her backstory and everything that's going on. And it's kind of, I wasn't expecting it to be confronting, but it was unexpectedly, surprisingly confronting, because they really do not see her as a person. She's a less than, and we all know that exists in the world and has existed in the world forever, but it's not something that we really come across as much anymore. And even when I think of fantasy stories, like I'm reading Lord of the Rings again, and I'm thinking Game of Thrones, I don't really remember it being so much a part of it. It obviously is in there, especially in Game of Thrones, but it's really highlighted in this. And so at the end I was like, I guess I was just feeling sympathy for her and her plight and her situation.
Well, I think it's interesting too that how that's carried forward. You've got Ragna at the end of the book, where you think she helps them with the bandits. She saves Isagir, and then we have this moment where she even looks down on the Dave and responds that it's your bed slave, and it's just completely dismissive of this. And this is a person that's kind of set up. Right. It's a nice payoff for the character where, again, it's that morality question. We established it early on. These are subhuman. These are people that are looked down on by everybody. And then we established that this character, no, they're a salvation character. They've saved somebody, but they still have that. And that's a nice
it doesn't make them necessarily a good guy, sort of.
Exactly. They're not a white hat. They're not a black hat. They're in that gray zone. And I think that's a lot of fun that you can play with characters here. And that was a really nice, well-timed line in that, where you just get that impression right away.
Matt Hunter says, moral law is an invention of mankind for the disenfranchisement of the powerful in favor of the weak. Historical law subverts it at every turn. That's not a quote from the book, is it?
But they actually
unpack that.
The character I'm most interested in and curious about is Ishkel, or whatever. I'm not good at memorizing names because I'm curious from everything from what is the mark on his face, like all the way to he's got the least amount of backstory. I feel like he says a little bit, and we know what his power is, sort of, but even he doesn't really know as much about his curse. So I guess that leaves me the most curious about him, and the fact that he seems to be the only one with like 100% empathy, which is understandable if you're living other people's memories. Yeah, you would be really empathetic, I think.
Yeah, and it makes him unusual in that world.
Yeah.
In our world, he's just a normal person, a normal, well-adjusted person.
Yeah, he's definitely the gateway for the reader to apply their own morals. What they know is morally right to the world. He's the character to use for that, for the reader to use for that. He's the character that's saying the stuff the reader probably would if they were there, like, whoa, that's fucked up. But I'm also, the most curious about him. I feel like we know less about him, and so I do hope we get more about him and his past. And I don't know. It's like he's the one I have my eye on, how he's reacting to things, and curious about, like, again, the mark on his face.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like there's a romance brewing between those two. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know anything about them racially, but I got that feeling.
Did you also?
And I love the fact that, if I could return Matt Hunter's comment, that's a great Cormac McCarthy quote, and I would respond to it with, "War was always here before man was. War waited for him. The ultimate trade waiting is his ultimate practitioner." You can take that view if you will, but certain things always exist, and it's certain things wait for their arrival, and I think that fits to this world really, really well. And like you said right there with Kirby, good old-fashioned fantasy racism. It isn't, I wouldn't argue racism. It's an establishment of the moral code of the style of the world that they live in. Casimir even talks about that. In the city, there's rules, but in the outside of the setting of the walls, there's nothing. And if you look back, Renie established this as really, really well, because in page, let's see my notes here. It's early on in the book, pages 4 and 5. The city is walled completely, even from the cliff face. In the cliff face, normally, like in a Western wall in medieval style, if you're looking like a Motte and Bailey, you're not going to wall off the cliff face because nobody's going to come up there. But this is a fantasy world. We've got walls right there on panel 2 or panel 3. The wall extends all the way around the city, even with the sheer cliff. It's a fantasy world. It's a protected realm. That moral law that I'm talking about exists only within that urban setting, and those walls protect you from it. Everything outside of that, as Casimir says, there are no rules. There are no law, and you have to be just as brutal as the world around you. So that's the sense I got, at least when I'm looking at that. And when I'm using morality, I'm using it in that term, because I don't know what Renie's morality is in this world. We're still learning with how her story is progressing.
Sorry, my last question would be. Oh, go ahead, Piper.
I was going to add one thing to that.
Yep.
I think walls even on the cliffside is probably a pretty good idea for, like, so kids don't accidentally run off the cliff. Like, like there's a barrier there between them and dropping.
Drunk people at 3 a.m. in the morning.
Exactly. Like, I feel like that's a safety thing, not a protecting them from the outside. But
busted both of his knees stumbling through a bush once and fell into a ditch. So yeah,
ooh, yeah, exactly.
Next to a cliff, you could.
I'd be chasing the groceries rolling down that hill like I do my driveway. So
yeah, so like my impression of the walls being there wasn't like anything to write home about, just because I wasn't thinking about them protecting themselves from somebody coming at them from the cliff, but just protecting themselves from their dumb butts.
It is a cool idea, though. It really is. You can imagine, like, what could scale those walls in this world? Something actually could.
Right. It's a
See, this
sense
is
of
true
threat.
too. We
There's
don't
a
know all the
threat
creatures
around.
yet.
And that's what I'm saying. It's the threat of the outside world has no bearing on the morality of the urban setting. The city has its own rules. The outside world has its own. And the outside world is unforgiving. And she establishes that and it remains consistent. And again, as an editor's eye, this is what I look for. Like, okay, you're going to establish that. Well, man, that's one way to firmly establish it, whether it's conscious or subconscious in the reader's eye. This is a fully walled town that's on a chasm. And they're protecting themselves from God knows what that's out there.
Well, I feel like I could just keep asking questions because there's so much it sounds like to unpack in this story. But we have been already talking for nearly an hour, and we do have an interview still. I did want to quickly ask, did you feel like you got a good self-encapsulated story in this issue? Since it is a continuing story, does it end at a good point, and do you get a satisfying climax for everything introduced within just this one issue? Bancroft, I'll ask you, since you're also writing a book in a similar style of a continuing story.
I don't know if it's a full story, but it was definitely enough of a story that I felt a lot more satisfied by it than I did on the first one. And again, I'm a little bit different than most people in that I didn't read the first one and have to wait a year. I read the first one and just dove right into the second. So it didn't really bother me that there was less in the first one. I would have personally liked to see a bit more of Ragnar, but I get the feeling that she's going to be a huge part of the story going forward. So it doesn't really matter. You know, I am very much invested in the world, and I'm excited to see, because I think she's probably going to be one of the most interesting characters going forward. So I would say 75-80% yes. You know, I got enough of a contained story, but obviously, yeah, I think there's going to be like 12 of these things. So I going in, I expected that it would be an ongoing thing.
Okay. Did anyone else want to add? Agree? Disagree?
I agree with that. I kind of figured when she showed up that I was getting close to the last page, because it's a spot that I would have ended it too. Like, dun dun dun, new character. You're gonna have to wait.
Right.
But there was one other thing that confused me a little bit, and it might just be something that I need to keep reading the plot to find out. But I feel like in the very, very beginning, the situation in the monsters wiping his town and his family and stuff seemed way different from the encounters with this monster later. Like, it feels like the monster looked different, was more intelligent, like, and that way more was going on. So, but I don't know if that's something. And then all of a sudden, like, we get to see the monster again, and it's very different from what I thought. It seems like just a pure monster animal weirdness. But that, I'm assuming, might be something that I'm just getting impatient to learn, and that we will learn it as the story goes.
Okay. Let's maybe jump into final thoughts and start to wrap a little bit. Aldous, I'll start with you.
Overall, I think a massive improvement over book one. I was impressed for the most part. You know, and honestly, until Piper was kind of mentioning that last sequence, I started looking at it again, and the boob physics changes. She's very well endowed at certain times, and then we drift back, and she goes from like a D to like a B, and then back to a D. So I don't know if she's pushing her chest out as soon as she recognizes that it's Casimir and like, hey, these are still here, or what. It was
she's gonna break that strap if she's not careful. Hope it's triple stitched.
It's struggling, man. There's a couple of panels there.
Usually the protruding nipples are a tell how much there's
oh no, and they're there. They are there, my friend.
Good.
If you
look
look
it's
at,
like also really cold and snowy where they are. So.
Oh, that's true.
When she launches the fireball to burn everybody, they're not. And then she recognizes Casimir, and then they have a little discourse. And then the inset panel, after they're talking about the cursed boy, and that's some stray Dave who decided to tag along. And then she says, "Tish," and boom, it's got cold all of a sudden. So.
All right.
The fire's out. So
sudden cold snaps are a thing in this land. So.
Yes.
Well, the flames have died down.
They can attack at any moment.
All right, Piper. Final thoughts, please.
I'm all hung up on this. I'm sitting here like looking for reasoning. Like, well, she lit some dudes on fire, then the fire went out. Then she said she was gonna burn them again. That they needed to get all they wanted off of them. So there is a time where she was warm and then not.
Moromi says it's magic. Let's
no, I'm down with that.
Mm-hmm. No, I really, really loved this. And again, I think that my favorite thing about it is what I keep harping on, and that is the storytelling so good that you don't realize that this one was a lot of character interaction, character development, and less action, beating people up, killing monsters, and stuff like that. And you don't feel like you're missing any action.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Bancroft, final thoughts?
The actual story itself, I'm super invested in now. I really enjoyed, both books together. I want to know more about these characters. I want to go on the quest with them. Being that this is a review, I will mirror what Alda said, that there's improvement to be made in the dialogue. And when I think, like I said, I'm listening to Lord of the Rings at the moment, and for me, what I love most are just some of those lines that get uttered that made it all the way from the books to the movies directly from Tolkien. They're just these really epic lines that you can only say in a fantasy story because it would sound silly in any other context. If you're going to write a fantasy story, I would love to see Renie just really polish some of these lines to the point where they can become quotes, that people associate with Fiendish. Because to me, that's really what I love most about the genre of fantasy is the language that's used. So I would love to see more of that. But yeah, other than that, 2 big thumbs up for Fiendish. I'm in. Let's go. 2.5. Bring it on.
Snuggie would like to hear some quotes such as potatoes.
Exactly.
Boil them, mash them, put them in a stew.
That is something else to point out, though, is the fact that there's a whole language that the reader is getting to learn through the fact that the kid's learning it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody. So great discussion, great opinions all around. And with that, let's bring on the creator. Everybody, please welcome Renie.
Uh-oh. Now we're all in trouble.
Hi.
Oh,
What?
turn the volume down.
I didn't hear anything at all. What's going on?
Let me just take my other earbud out.
Yeah.
Go. I'm sorry. I'll be quiet.
No.
Whisper.
We're here to hear you speak. We want to get your takes on everything. The biggest question actually is people I think pointed out a lot is you found a secret sauce, like a blending for Eastern and Western styles. And I personally, I think that that's a key in the way that independent storytelling is going to develop. Manga clearly has a place in comics. It's very popular, especially with younger audiences. And of course, there's an older comics fan base of Western comic readers. And I'm curious where you're getting your sense for how much East, how much West to put into your storytelling for Fiendish. Do you have a kind of a perception of like where you're taking from each one and you're creating this blend? Or is this kind of just coming naturally for you because you're maybe a fan of both mediums?
I think it comes pretty naturally, though I do know, and you guys probably couldn't tell if you read Fiendish 1 and 2. In 1, I had more of a manga style because that's what I've been drawing for longer until then. And all the stuff that I was being hired to do by Marvel, ironically, was kind of all more manga looking stuff. And I had a thought in my mind that, because I also really like European comics, I wanted to go more in that direction, but because Fiendish 1 was drawn in not just the art style, but the storytelling, the paneling is different in 1 and 2. I condensed the storytelling a bit for 2, and I think I'm going to continue condensing it. 2.5 has more story, 3 has way more story. It's denser, it's more panels per page, more European, and I'm trying to move towards that direction, though not like completely. I think by 3 I'll have found a nice balance, but it's kind of organic because I like comics from both parts of the world, and I've just been searching for what fits Fiendish.
What things do you especially like about Western comics?
Like Pew Pew Western or like Western?
What, yeah, not Pew Pew. Pew Pew Western.
American.
Okay. American. I don't know. I think. So I grew up in Taiwan. To caveat, I always tell people this: I grew up in Taiwan. I grew up reading manga, so I didn't read any American comics until like I was in college. But once I did go to college, because I went to college for sequential art, the series I picked up on were mostly Image, IDW. I always liked the indie stuff more, and I noticed that the storytelling in America and in the West, the visual storytelling was really strong. Because honestly, with manga, they play it kind of fast and loose with visual storytelling a lot. It's like, God, as long as like the idea comes across, it's fine. Like they don't really get hung up on like the 180 rule and like the shot blocking and like everything needs to be very clear. But American artists tend to be more strict about that, and I'd like to learn from that as well. So there's really good things to learn from all industries.
Do you have any that particularly stand out for you? Stories or series or writers?
Oh, American series that
Yeah.
I like? Yeah. Oh, one of my favorites are Lock and Key. I actually have it right here. I still revisit. I love that series. It's really well written and the art is amazing. And I think there was like a TV show adaptation, and the minute I heard about that, I'm like, this is
I
laughable,
recently started watching it. I
Oh.
couldn't get through the first episode on season 2. They made every single character, not everyone, but straight away there were like 6 new gay or lesbian characters. Episode 1, I was like, but they weren't gay in that season 1. And I was like, okay, I see what's going on here.
The book was it had a lot of diversity. They didn't have to force any of that. That's so silly. I just heard the show wasn't good, but the comic is really good. Yeah, it's such a travesty, but also it's kind of like Berserk. Take a shot. I've mentioned Berserk on a stream. I don't think Lock and Key can be properly adapted to a TV show. I think probably by somebody who's a very masterful visual storyteller in the film medium can do it, but you would need a master, because if you read Lock and Key, the way the panels are done, sometimes the way the art and the figures break the panels, the illusions that he creates, he uses the medium of comics in a way that only comics can. He tells a story in a way that only comics can tell a story, and I love that. And it's not a comic that's made to be a Netflix pitch, which is like 90% of stuff out there right now.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
I really
very
appreciate
much
that.
a Netflix
Agreed.
show. Very much a Netflix show.
Yeah,
So,
that's a
sounds
pity.
like
Yeah,
they didn't adapt it at all, actually.
No, they're like, oh, this made money. Let's like give it to a cheap, I don't know, like F-list director.
So when's Netflix Fiendish coming? Have you signed the papers
I'm
yet?
never giving up the rights. Never. I mean, I can only
$10 million.
pray that it does get fame. No, never.
20.
I'm never selling it.
$100 million, Renie.
No.
Fine,
Never.
$1 billion final offer, and you get full creative control.
Oh, only if I get full creative control. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Full creative control. Yeah. That's all I want. I want full creative control. I'm never gonna let somebody else take it. I also really like Scalped. Like I bought the whole series and then I moved around a lot. I don't know where it went, but I really like it. It's actually like really well written and it's really gritty and bloody and stuff. And I don't know why people don't bring it up a lot, but I actually really like mystery and crime stories. And Scalped is great. Very hard boiled.
Have you ever thought of shopping it around to maybe Japanese animation studios? Not necessarily going the big Hollywood route?
Like in my wildest dreams, I'm like, oh, this could be an anime. But no, it's not something that I've thought, oh, I can do this tomorrow or something. I also don't know how. Actually, no, I have thought of publishing in Japan, just publishing the comic, because I know some people who work in comics in Japan but the problem is that the industry there is very insular. And I actually have somebody doing a Japanese translation. I already have Fiendish 1 translated to Japanese, and 2 is being translated right now. And I'm doing Chinese translation of these books. I just don't have time to, I'm so busy. Ooh. But I'm going to have multilingual releases, obviously after the English editions are fulfilled. And I think going international is a great way to expand. But it's more, especially in Japan, the industry is very insular. So you need to, if not be Japanese, at least speak Japanese. And my Japanese is just not good enough. So either I work on my Japanese or I've been learning speak like tiny. Very, very little. But
as a Westerner, I understand that the Japanese market is very insular, but I also, thanks to an Australian LOL cow, understand that there is a Korean manga. Have you thought about translating to Korean?
Oh my god!
What? Wait, what?
Oh no!
Korean?
You could be Korean? A mangaka. Yeah, Korean manga. Anyway. Yeah.
No, Korean comics are called manhwa.
Yeah, they're manhwa, and they're actually in Korea.
That's part of the joke.
There. Okay. I'm sorry. I don't get.
No, I know the joke, but I don't. This is the first time I've heard Korean added to it.
Yeah, unfortunately,
I
don't have Korean connections.
Okay.
Well, maybe if you learn how to speak Korean, that's easier than Japanese, right?
I think it's all the same. Well,
yeah.
It's all the same.
It's all whatever.
Korean is easier, especially if you know Chinese, because there's a ton of loan words and the writing is all phonetic. So honestly,
I do not know Chinese. Renie. I don't know if you.
Okay. Well, why don't you?
Not yet fluent.
How dare you?
You will. You will.
I can make noises that vaguely sound like it, but
sure.
That's like insulting.
I've heard.
So refrain.
Exactly right. I agree. All right.
Some great Chinese cinema, like Raise the Red Lanterns and Farewell My Concubine. So. Anyway.
I've never seen Raise the Red Lantern.
Yeah. Well, so
certainly not their remake or their adaptation of it just launched on Netflix. Shoot.
Oh no.
3 Body Problem. Oof, that was bad, man. Not as bad as I don't know. It's hard. Which one's worse? The Chinese version, the Netflix version? But
I only know Squid Game, so sorry.
That's Korean.
Oh, I thought it was all the same.
I'm on a huge Chinese fantasy drama kick right now. I don't know what my problem is, but it's all costume drama with the flowy clothes and the magic swords and crap.
Yeah, it's Chinese.
I can't get enough. I don't know what's wrong with me right now.
It's great. It's a whole Chinese fantasy. It's like if you take the Journey to the West stuff, but there's just a whole expansion off of similar kind of things. like what you said, flowy robes and wizards. It's just like Lord of the Rings, but Chinese. It's pretty good.
Yeah, that's what I'm hooked on right now. Like I watch in my free time is that stuff. I'm supposed to be learning. I'm supposed to be immersing myself in Japanese so that I can learn the language faster. And I'm screwing it up by watching all this stuff that's in like, I don't much know which one, Mandarin or Cantonese.
Oh no! Well, if it's Mandarin, I can help you. Come to me anytime. Yes. Abandoned Japanese.
Bride with white hair, awesome wuxia. I'm gonna write that down.
Bride with white hair. Oh, yeah.
It all you know what? It all started with the wolf. The one called the wolf. It all started with that one. It's that one's fault.
I don't know that one. A lot of the newer ones I don't even know that well. Yeah, but Korean, speaking of like Squid Game and stuff, Korean film and drama and media has been kicking ass. It's been really good.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like
it's almost
like Hollywood is just going down the drain. Yeah. It's almost like Japan has an animation and Korea has a live action, and it's really impressive, honestly. Especially now that
like Jae-wook Kim out of Korea has done some fantastic stuff. His Western, The Good, the Bad, and the Weird, is fantastic. It's just a ton of fun.
Yes, that was great. I like that one too. Yeah, that one.
But yeah, and then like on the spy side of things, you've got Cherie, which is a fantastic movie. If anybody ever seen that, obviously Train to Busan, Taegu Kai, which is an excellent World War II movie. Korean cinema has been just absolutely kicking ass the last 20 years and blowing Hollywood out of the water for sure.
Yeah, I was hooked on some Korean stuff for a little bit, and then like I said, then I saw The Wolf, and it ruined me.
That guy for Red Bank.
Bye.
Well, Michael actually alluded earlier that you're a mixture of both, and I don't know if that's. And I'm sorry if this is personal or whatever, but like your last name, Strakowski, doesn't scream Taiwan to me. Is there maybe a bit of East and West in your family? Is that why?
Yeah. My dad is like American mix, like all over Europe. You know, that's where the Strakowski is from. It's Polish. My mom is Taiwanese, and I was born and raised in Taiwan. So
okay.
Yeah.
But you so you got some Western exposure from your father then. That's where you learned about the culture a little bit.
No, he didn't tell me anything.
Renie,
I went to American school.
I see.
Renie was forbidden to see any Western pop culture thing until I'm guessing the age of like 20, because she knows nothing about.
I don't know anything
that happened pre.
Make it sound like she's from North
like
Korea.
I mean, you're joking.
That's
but
why she described it.
I don't really know. I'm just like slowly catching up on the Western canon because I went to American school, so I know the history, and that's why I speak good English, obviously. But like, my dad didn't share anything about the culture with me, and both my parents are weirdos who would just listen to classical music and read classical books. We had no TV at home, so I grew up just drawing and like reading manga and reading books like a weirdo. I don't know. Nobody does that anymore. I'm aware.
It's basically
that whole I'm literate. I'm weird.
Yeah. So,
classical music and classical books. What a weirdo.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yes.
That is
I did not grow up
weird,
watching terrible cinema. Oh.
Right. You need to grow up watching reality shows like the Kardashians and reading comics on your cell phone. That's a normal upbringing. Yeah.
Oh,
Can you imagine the day, Well-Read, where you have somebody on that said, like, yeah, my primary inspiration for this book was MTV's The Real World?
Yeah. The day's coming, I'm sure.
Oh, my God.
I mean, everything is reality TV. Look at YouTube. This is all just voyeurism, essentially.
Yup.
you know.
Let's get some
Don't pull the curtain back.
sincere media.
That's why I'm just an avatar. I don't want people judging me just, because of my body.
Right. You don't want all that attention, thrust upon.
Yeah, it's okay. I judge you based on your accent.
Now I'm in trouble.
Oh no.
And I actually have one of the least Australian accents that you can have.
That's true. Yours is like really watered down compared to like some people I talk to.
Well, and the worst part is
I can tan it up if you want me to.
There we go.
Get all outback with it.
Mm-hmm.
The worst part in the reality shows is the most dysfunctional personalities get all the attention. And you come on here and you want to be like a legit normal creator and like do art, but you're not going to get attention unless you're a complete total mess and a wreckage, right? On YouTube. How does that work? How do you balance that exactly?
I don't.
Right?
I just draw and quietly have meltdowns and draw more and put on my butt.
See, look at the attention I court. Hail, well-read loser and panel. See, it's only because I'm a loser that people like me and watch the show.
It's kind of what you have to do is you just have to accept that if you're going to focus on comics and especially indie comics, you're just not going to be particularly popular. But there's always the hope that if you stick with it and keep building interest in, whatever you're interested in, and if you're a creator of your book, then, the payoffs will come later, not necessarily on YouTube, but, I don't think, people who did end up making it and making it big, whether it's comics or novels or whatever, like what's that guy, Brandon Sanderson? I don't think he really cares if people think he's interesting on YouTube. He's got $29 million from books he made. So I think that's at least that's where I'm at.
So YouTube is like a gateway.
I'll never be the big showman on YouTube, but hopefully people will enjoy my book. That's sort of how I come at it.
So it's a gateway, essentially.
Well, there's two sides to that, right? It's do you want millions of backers for $1, or do you want tens of backers for hundreds of dollars? It's the age old. You want to go for more or less? That's the marketing choice you have to make. You can do really well in this space, as both Renie and Michael have shown with their channels, of having just a dedicated, consistent fan base that's of a decent size. You don't have to have those huge numbers, because when you get to those huge numbers, there's a certain trade-off that happens. There's a little bit of selling yourself you have to do to get to that, and you lose the authenticity. If you keep it, just do your thing, be consistent, you'll build the audience over time. In my opinion, I think that's what both of you guys have done. And it shows in your work. Are you guys selling millions of copies? No, but you're consistent and you're solid with where you're at to produce your books and make a little bit of coin on the side. I think that's the ideal, in my opinion, for where you should be as artists and as, content producers, in the sense of producing an actual work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, well, both Michael and I are pretty early on in our projects, and I know, Michael, you have a long-form story planned. I definitely do. So for me, I'm not freaking out just because, well, my YouTube channel isn't blowing up, because the comics come first, and this should be a long game. Even comics in general is a long game, and any things on the internet, you never know when it'll catch on. I think it's smart to cast as wide of a net as possible. So use YouTube, because YouTube is a good avenue for self-promotion and for talking about your work. And there is a dedicated audience that is interested in channels that are all about comics and all about whatever, just talking about your work. Like, people really like hearing creators passionately getting into your world, your craft. There are dedicated fans that are into that. Those are there's a smaller group of fans. It's not a general populist fan base, but I would rather have that and create something, present myself, in a way that I'm comfortable with, because I just want to talk about comics. And I believe, and I have to believe, that long term that will grow if we put the comics first, as long as that's authentic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I think that sums up for sure what I was saying in a much more succinct way.
Well, to also play
Well,
into
not really, but I try.
to play into some of the parasocial aspects, like, do you also talk about yourself and talk about your upbringing, listening to classical music, reading classical literature? Do you think that also helps reinforce your audience's commitment to you and your work? Or do you think you have to play a personality a little bit and entertain?
No. I mean, I'll censor myself to not say like stupid things online, but I don't feel the need to play a personality. I think some people wonder that. No, I'm just an idiot in real life. I really just act this way. Please don't question it. No, I would. I don't have the energy to play a personality or whatever. I'm sure there is a parasocial aspect to that, but I think my audience knows that. Oh, hello. Like, the comics come first. I'm obviously here selling comics, but I've heard, and I, as a comics consumer and as well, I like getting to know the creator on some level too. Like, I follow Brandon Sanderson, and like, he doesn't talk about himself that much, but a lot of other creators and there are YouTubers that have become creators. I like getting to know the person, their specific presentation style. So that, I'm sure that does help, but it isn't just about me. Like, I'm not, I don't want to become that.
I don't think I hear anybody mention it much, but does authenticity sell?
I think it does, but there's a specific audience for that.
Mm-hmm.
There's different audiences that will just want drama and other stuff, but then there's an audience that wants authenticity as well. They're very separate, and I think as someone presenting yourself online, you have to make a decision. What feels natural to you? What do you want to cater to?
I've already decided to be completely inauthentic, so that's the route I'm going.
Well, at least you made the decision and you've committed.
Total
Consistency
fraud
is key.
and a fake. Yeah. But yeah, I like having the rapport though with the audience, and having a way to communicate back and forth. So Mike says drama audience is gay. So Mike knows his audience. They're all clearly there for him.
And Mike definitely knows gay too. So.
But yeah, it's connecting with the customers on some level, right? And being able to interact and engage.
Mm-hmm.
Do you take a lot of feedback from your customers? Like, when you hear them giving their thoughts, super chatting you, telling you, what they want you to do and works they want you to work on, things they want you to talk about. Like, how do you feel about the audience?
Well, I mean, of course I love my audience. They're my backers, and I'm here because of them. So there's that's pretty straightforward. If you're asking about critique, yeah, I tried to listen to any and all feedback. There is no feedback that I would not listen to or argue against. The only people I argue against are my colorist and my editor, and I'll argue with them all day, but not the audience. If the audience has an opinion about my book, I listen, and it's up to me to decide if this fits the book going forward. But I want to hear feedback, because it's how a creator improves, and my goal is for every Fiendish book to be better than the last. I want to keep on improving as a creator, a writer, and an artist, and I think it's a waste of my time to spend so much time making comics and making this book, because this is a huge project and comics take a lot of time, and I can't fathom putting this much time and energy into something and not improving and making the best product. So I want to hear feedback, and I always welcome it.
Well, I guess not the critical side, but more like managing the parasocial relationship. Are there pitfalls and are there upsides? How do you balance that?
Oh, these are hard questions. I
hope you studied for this interview.
Oh, I didn't. Oh, I don't think as much about this stuff.
What about you?
I think it's.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Renie. I was going to give you a lifeline and ask Michael the same question. If
Oh yeah, Michael, please answer. Thank you.
What was the question?
How do you balance the parasocial relationship? Like, are there pitfalls and are there upsides? Like, what do you do in terms of your relationship with the audience, making sure that you're connecting and, still reciprocating?
I just try to be myself. I'm no one's daddy. I'm no one's
be my daddy
teacher,
please.
Or anything like that. Occasionally, someone will sort of cross the line and be a little bit too familiar, but it's actually very rare. There's only been a couple of times where someone has really thought that we're really close friends when I haven't interacted with them at all. And, sometimes I have interacted and, but other than that, I mean, it's the internet. You just kind of roll with it. You create boundaries, and then it's easier with just Twitter, because then you can kind of ghost people if you need to.
But if you create boundaries, like, are you also disassociating with your audience? Like, how do you keep the boundaries at a minimum?
No, you
screw them. Fuck those guys.
You give as much time as is feasible. I don't have hours to be interacting with everyone were they to want that. So, you just sort of give a, I don't know. you just talk like a normal person, I think.
Yeah. I'll just
say, anyway, dude, I'm getting back to work or whatever. Or
yeah.
Like the thing with me that I find sometimes difficult to navigate is even sometimes I've got not really parasocial, but just sort of peer-to-peer working relationships. And, some people want some things out of that that I'm not really, in a position to offer them. And so you've got to sometimes you need to have a conversation and say, look, I do this is why I do it. And because at the end of the day, you got to turn off Twitter and go back to life and your family and your job and, everything else. So you can't be living on Twitter and dealing with, anyone's really issues, really.
I wonder if women are like more predisposed to this environment because they're good at keeping comfortable boundaries and barriers. Like, what do you think, Piper? Does the social media game and like connecting with your audience, does it flow a little bit more naturally? You're able to have kind of a rapport with the audience, but without crossing any unfamiliar or uncomfortable territory there?
Yeah. It's pretty easy to, I just don't get into private conversations. Unless it's somebody I'm working with and it's about work. Like, I just don't get into private conversations anymore. And I don't do like group DMs and crap like this to just chat about anything that's not working on a comic. Essentially, that's how I manage it. If I have some free time, then I'm poking around Twitter, commenting on something that, I don't know, I have something to say about. Otherwise, I'm working.
All right, I'm being a weirdo. Apparently, I'm supposed to talk about comic books more. Renie, tell me about your comic book.
My comic? What? Wait, I didn't.
No, you know what I want to know is
because
we all enjoyed Fiendish 2 so much. Is there anything you can tell us about what's coming in Fiendish 3?
Look at Bancroft taking over and
no, please.
asking the. That's what I'm saying. Taking over and asking the right questions. I thought it was getting a little creepy.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out how it is for a creator to have to stream and connect.
I know. I was just sitting here like, what is all this parasocial shit?
You guys don't think this is all a parasocial environment?
No, I think what Well Read was getting at is we live in a world where everything is more interconnected than ever, and there is a larger and larger, it's a growing segment of people that live almost exclusively online, and parasocial relationships are becoming more and more important. If you disagree with that, then I would have you know that every major marketing firm disagrees with you, because they are moving further and further into the utilizing influencers to push product.
Oh,
And
yeah,
whether
that's
you're
true.
aware of that or not, that's a huge aspect of online. If you can create a relationship with a customer, you're eliminating it. In the real world, it takes 8 to 16 points of contact before you're even going to get a chance at a sale. Online, if you can immediately create that parasocial relationship, you're cutting through all that gray matter, and you're immediately going right to the sale portion. That's a huge aspect. And
That was
well-read
viewed like
is
viewed the YouTube
well-intentioned but
shows
very
like.
poorly phrased. Is
Oh,
how
I was gonna say. I don't know. I viewed it like you used to have to go to conventions to
get the glad
as a
hand,
creator talk to fans, or as a creator try to earn some new ones, and now you can be on all the time with YouTube and streaming. So I just figure it's like that. It's like you're at your booth, your channel.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. It's I think someone else had described a YouTube comic space as well. It feels like a 24/7 convention, and
Yeah.
I think that's how I try to approach it. Like, I'm just gonna act, because I do stream a lot. I do draw streams, I promote people, and I try to approach it as myself, but also with a layer of professionalism, as I would at a convention. Like, so I'm not sitting there telling them about, oh my God, like my cousin's brother's boyfriend said this or that to me. I'm so annoyed at them. Like, I'm just talking about the comic and being friendly and being positive. And I think being positive is very important. Like, if I have complaints, I'm not going to tell a fan and, go on and on about it on stream. I think, like, early on I made that mistake, but then you sort of learn, well, there needs to be a bit of a filter, not as in you're inauthentic, but this is in my private Facebook for me to vent. This is for business. So I'm here to talk about comics, and I try to make that very clear. And other than that, I think it's pretty straightforward. Like, I haven't had that many problems with people crossing boundaries. Most people seem to understand that pretty well. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was getting at. So thanks, Aldous, for bailing me out there. Appreciate the save.
And can we get an answer to is there anything you can say about Fiendish 3?
Ooh, yeah. So the next book I was going to I planned it all out because I really wanted to get to this one plot point, and I overheard a little bit of your discussion, but I didn't want to just eavesdrop on the whole thing. But anyway, so obviously this is a long form story, and I've spent 1 and 2 just laying the groundwork. This is the character, this is the world, and these are the rules, and there's so much to establish, which is this issue that I thought I was keeping things simple. And every time I think I'm keeping something simple, it's not simple, because it's a fantasy world, and I have to establish all these things that I world built and had no self-control and totally ran away with. And now I have to make sure the audience understands it in a way that, that they actually get it. So I have to get proofreaders and get people have to give me feedback. So they tell me if they actually understand I'm coming across the way that I want to. Anyways, sorry, I'm rambling. So there's a lot to establish, and I want to get to a certain plot point, but that's why the next book was going to be gigantic. It was going to be like 120 pages, because that's what it would have taken, and I really wanted to get to Dorvo. So I've already told everybody the story is they're going to go back to Casimir's hometown. That's these ruins, and we're going to have some big revelations on the way. And then at Dorvo, and finally we're going to figure out, okay, who's the big bad, because there is a villain of the story, and I still haven't introduced them yet. It's not just the demons. But then
is that his hometown, Dorvo?
Yeah, that's his hometown.
Yeah,
so
that
the
was
next part of the story. we're going to be going back to his hometown, and there's just tons of reveals on the way. There's, we're going to be traveling with Ragna as well, meet a few other characters, and I'm just slowly building up to revealing what happened there. And then once we reintroduce once we introduce the big bad, then that's the end of the first arc. And then the next few arcs are it's divided into like 4 arcs, 3 or 4 arcs. It's 4 arcs in total. So the first arc is we're building up. I want it to be a bit of a mystery, but while we're building up to who the actual big bad is, I want the character interactions and the character development to really carry the readers over, hopefully. But anyways, the next book was going to be gigantic. And then several people, including Bancroft, talked me out of it because they're like, don't do a 100-page book. You're going to want to smash your head against the wall. So I'm going to not do that.
Right now, the plan... pages. That's like another comic on top of a 100-page book.
It wasn't even just 100 pages. It was 120 pages because I thumbed out the first half, and that was 60 pages, and I had already rushed things. Like, I glossed over things. Like, I showed it to Jake, and he was already like, this is like rushed, and everybody was saying like, you're trying to cram too much in. But I was like, but I need to cram this stuff in, and I was trying to be like really concise with it. But there's a lot to establish, and right now the plan is, okay, I'm going to split it in 2. That means I can let the story breathe more. 3 will end on a cliffhanger, but there are still enough reveals within 3. And so I think what's going to happen now is 3 will be Thalfrin, which is the shaman's hermitage and Ragna's home in the woods and everything. And there's like a minor secondary antagonist reveal after that. So it's going to be Thalfrin and the road to Dorvo. That's going to be 3. And then 4 will be actually in Dorvo because a lot of stuff happens in Dorvo. And they'll be back-to-back books. So what I'm working on right now is I'm planning all of it out at once. I'm thumbing it out, doing all the layouts at once because it's like one story. And I'm just going to draw 3 first and then launch that campaign. And as soon as that fulfills, I'm going to launch 4. So it's going to be back-to-back campaigns because they're supposed to be read back-to-back anyways. So yeah, that's the plan. So people who were willing to wait for the 120-page book, you're still going to get that same content in the same amount of time because I can only draw so fast. But I will go crazy if I don't take a little tiny bit of a break in between. There you go.
Phew.
Yeah.
Did I answer the question?
Even
Aaron
I forgot the question.
He'll never do a 100-page book.
Yeah, Aaron said, well, no, Shelley was like, don't do it.
It sounds actually pretty perfect. It sounds like we're getting what we enjoyed in the second, but it's more Ragnar focused, which I think everyone is down for because, she kind of comes in like a whirlwind. She seems really intriguing, but we didn't really get much of her. So it actually sounds like it works out perfectly well. You do have 2 distinct stories there as part of a whole.
Right. So Yomi takes a very large part. Someone was joking that Yomi is now my main character. She's not, but her character development happens first. So I kind of have the characters' arcs all staggered out over the story. But we will be traveling with Ragna. She's a permanent part of the core group. And I just love writing her. She's just such a firebrand, and we'll be seeing a lot more of her. Yeah.
Aldous had a query about the cup size.
I didn't hear that. Yeah.
It was not a query, sir. It was an observation.
Right. Okay. I did hear that. So I can answer that. So what happened was I did all the layouts.
Just say you went full Plagal, and it's fine.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I met Dan Plagal. We became friends. He really influenced me, and we're here today.
Yeah, that you're joking, but you're right. Because what happened was I drew a lot of the pages early because I wanted certain pages for the trailer and to put on the campaign. So some of the pages where her boobs are smaller, I drew those first. And then as the story progressed, I got to know Dan Plagal, and I'm like, there needs to be more boobage here, and there needs to be some nips. So that's what happened, and I didn't notice it was a problem, but we had to go to print by the time I noticed it. So I'm like, you know what? This is like a very minor problem. I'm very annoyed at it, but going forward, her boob size will be consistent, and it will be large.
So don't worry, everybody.
Don't worry.
No magic titties.
Well, and on that day, in Whoville, they say her boobs grew 3 sizes that day.
I should have gone with like a magical explanation instead of admitting that I just didn't think that
Yeah.
closely.
When you
I think everyone
channel the power
understands
for the pyro,
these are,
it makes the boobs get bigger.
Was there
That's
cross
true.
species
When-
shipping
when-
happening though?
It's actually
What?
kind of fun. This sort of you're there for the kind of formation of these things, so to speak. And you can watch it evolve and decisions get made and stuff like that. It makes it more interesting to me rather than just sort of reading something that's already completed. We get to see. Oh, well, I wonder why she did that. Oh, I see. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I always remember how in a lot of manga, I don't know about American comics, I remember like the beginning of Why the Last Man looked kind of janky and the art got a lot better. The same thing happened a little tiny bit with Lock and Key, but usually American comics are different, especially because there's so many reboots. You don't have a lot of just like limited series. Well, there are, but the ones that I like are limited. Most of the stuff produced here I don't like. But I noticed it in manga. The early chapters of a lot of manga are kind of janky, and the art, because the artist evolves and it's almost kind of expected. So I like seeing that progression almost. I think as long as a story and the art is progressing, then that captivates me. Like I like seeing someone improve. And obviously, like I said, I want to continue improving as a creator, so I guess I relate to that.
Sorry, I was reading a comment.
It was just basically boobs big, boobs good.
Yeah. Was
That
there cross species shipping? Somebody was mentioning that in the story.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, I was
something
just saying, is there any like, can the Daev, obviously do they have babies with humans? Is that did I get that correct?
No, they can't.
No, they can't.
No, correct.
Okay.
They can't. They can't. I have
But
species.
they are used for bed. What did you call them? Bed.
They are bed
Bed?
slaves. Yes. Yeah. It
Bed
was.
slaves?
It was. Yeah. It's kind of messed up if you think about it, but I'm like, oh, they're kind of like, think about Twi'leks. So they're a different species, and I wanted to be rather scientific-ish about how the species are defined, because I don't have elves and dwarves or anything. I wanted to make up my own fantasy species, and species can't interbreed with each other, but there are different types of humans, and if it's a different type of human if they can interbreed. That's why Ispaliad, which is the race that Ragna is, they're like taller, they're red skin, like green or blue hair, really weird looking. And there's a few different types of humans in the story as well. They can interbreed, and there's subtypes of species, but Dev and humans are different species, but the Dev I wanted to make them, especially the females, close and form enough to humans for it to be believable. Like humans would find this, attractive, or at least some of them would, and they would have like this weird thing going on. But yeah, they can't have kids.
That actually
Which
makes
actually
it
that
worse
actually
in my
makes them
mind.
more useful as that kind of slave, because you don't have to worry about.
That's like even harsher, because it's
Yeah.
It's pretty
you
much
don't have to worry about freaking contraception or anything. You don't have to worry about anything coming out of this. It's just you can just abuse them forever until you get real. Like
They have that in Japan, don't they? They call them comfort brides or something. It's women who are barren, essentially.
The fuck?
Yeah.
I don't know about this.
I thought that's a thing.
What have you been researching?
What the hell?
Yeah, I don't. This is
What
new to
is
me.
what does your history look like?
What? It's a thing.
I don't think
I don't
that
know.
is.
Whatever.
I do know that. Remember, they went around in Japan and asked the women on the street what they think of prostitutes, if it's cheating, and they're like, "No, it's not cheating. As long as there's no emotional connection and he pays for it. What's the problem?"
Yeah, most of them were like, he comes home to me. That's the important part.
Yeah.
Right. That's wild. I mean, that's really interesting. And I do have a passing interest in, what do you call it, sociology, anthropology, or whatever. This kind of stuff is really fascinating, because especially understanding a few different cultural backgrounds, there almost is so much variation to how people can think about things. Like there are human universals, but there are also so many things that vary, especially stuff like morality or just how society should function. Gender roles, all these things vary so much, even in the real world species of us as humans. And that stuff is fascinating. So I think that's really interesting to study, especially if you're going to write a fantasy story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sounds like you researched.
Sounds like you research stuff.
I know. What is this?
Barren women. These things pop up on.
Bring me a barren woman.
I don't know. I don't want to know more about this. This sounds.
Well, aren't most of the women in the adult industry there barren essentially? Like, I don't know. I read something like that.
Where did you read this?
I don't know. That's something they do in Japan.
I think you're making that up.
Fine, they're not barren. They're all getting knocked up left and right. Whatever.
No, they're not going to get. There's okay. So there's different kinds of contraceptives. There's also
I don't want to get into this. Now you're being weird.
Stop it.
You started it.
Not listening.
You started it.
We are way off track.
Pervert magazine.
That's it. We got to get this show back on track. Everybody.
Oh, I'm about to freaking Google. Make my history look all stupid now.
Get away from that Google. It's evil.
I don't want to know.
Renie, have you ever considered working on any other properties, or are you just totally focused on Fiendish? Are there other things you'd like to do in comics?
Right now, Fiendish is my main thing, and I don't want to be too distracted. But I do work for other people. I do a lot of covers. I have a long list of commissions that is lined up for this year. I'll be very busy. But also, I'm working on something with Will Perdomo and Ellie. So that and Krager. So it's a short comic, like a 5 to 7 page thing. So I do short comics here and there, but. Oh, also, someone asked me this, so I decided I can do it. I can do layouts, because apparently people say I'm pretty good at layouts. So not finished pages, but I can be commissioned to just do comic layouts, and I'm open to that. But my main thing will always be Fiendish, because this is a huge project. I'm very, very invested in it. It means a lot to me, genuinely. So that'll be my main focus.
And you're hoping to just continue to grow this property and just see how far you can take it. Animation, international.
I don't know about that. I mean, that would be awesome, but I don't know about that. Oh my gosh, that would be awesome. I don't know about that. Yeah. No, I don't even know. Like, it feels like crowdfunding and YouTube has worked out really well for me. And I'm extremely grateful for what I have now. But I also want to expand more to a bit of a general market, not in the sense of changing my story. That's never going to happen, but I'd like to that's what the international versions are, and I'd like to have trade paperbacks eventually, probably print on demand, like KDP Amazon or something like that, because I think if you expand to more readers after the crowdfunding campaigns are fulfilled, that makes the crowdfunding items, which are supposed to be collectibles, more valuable. And I do want to expand, though I'm focused on just the comics, because I want Fiendish to be good as a comic. I'm not making it to be a TV show or whatever. Maybe that would be nice 20 years from now or something. I don't know.
You're definitely not right now. We're seeing
no, not right now.
You don't want it.
Jeez.
Yeah, all the adapt something before it's even finished. Like, I think Game of Thrones is a cautionary tale against that. So no, I would like to not Game of Thrones my work. That terrifies me.
I looked it up.
Oh.
No!
I looked up Japanese comfort wives. It is way more fucked up than I thought.
Okay.
Japanese...
Are you talking about the World War II stuff?
Yes. The only thing that Japan has going for it that has anything to do with comfort wives is not barren. It's from World War II, when they forced women from Korea, China, and other countries to become military sex slaves.
Okay.
Well read.
fine.
That is the only way you could have heard of Comfort Wives.
That's maybe what I heard of it.
That is the only context for Comfort Wives. That is so fucked up. And now that's in my search history.
Yeah. Now you know history in your search history.
I concur with Brian Christow in the chat of "Oh God, Nan King, Jesus." Like, you had to go there.
Yeah, let's not continue. I mean, you can do your independent research, but also you can research what happened in Mongolia, but we're gonna not go there.
Never judge.
I'm not gonna research any more of that. But as an aside, no, there's no such thing about Japanese porn stars being barren.
Okay, I made it up.
You did. You made that one up all the way.
Bunny
and that is also in my fucking wet search history now.
Oh.
So in other news, Fiendish.
Renie,
but
have,
sweet.
2.5 Fiendish 2.5. Is it still available on Fun My Comic, or have you closed that? And I apologize.
No.
I'm trying to recover here from Well Red's faux pas.
I've just made continuously throughout this stream. Clearly,
it's okay. We can do this. No, 2.5 is closed now on both Fun My Comic and Indiegogo. I will have a permanent variant. Actually, I should just put that up on the website. So, you know what? Check back tomorrow or something. I'll have the permanent cover, the permanent market version available on the website for pre-order. Because what I do is my campaign covers are campaign exclusive, and then afterwards I have like a permanent cover. So, and I'm printing it all in the same print run. So you can pre-order on the website. It'll be marked up from the campaign, so you can still get it, but not with the campaign covers. So there. But the campaigns are closed, and we literally just went to print. I sent everything out yesterday. So I guess we're gonna be checking everything on Monday, but yeah, we're printing, and we're gonna be fulfilling in April. This is a really quick turnaround.
How does 2.5 fit in to the overall arc between 2 and 3?
So I have several of these 0.5 stories planned, and the concept behind these is that they are kind of supplemental stories, but also they're standalone one-shots that are either character backstories or flashbacks or side quests. It could be either. I have 0.5 stories that are all of these things, and I named them 2.5, 3.5, so on and so forth, because it's structured to be read between those chapters. So it's best to read 2.5 between 2 and 3, because I have certain reveals that set up plot points in 3, even though 2.5 is a story that can be read on its own. That's how it works. And I'll have a few more of these going forward. And this is also not written by me, but not drawn by me. I did the layouts. I had Michael Rushbrook doing the pencils and inks, and Jake Harold, Hyper Wizard, doing the colors. He did a great job. I did a couple of the covers, like this one, but the interior artist is Michael Rushbrook, and he did absolutely amazing.
Nice. And so you'll be doing 0.5s, you said, then, for between 3 and 4, and others books as well?
Not between 3 and 4, because 3 and 4 were supposed to be one book, so I want to do them back to back. But I got this wild idea the other day. I realized that I could do a 1.5 retroactively. So please bear with me, guys. Like, this is... I try to plan everything out, but sometimes I'm still trying to find my way. I do have a story that I think would work really well. I just wrote it all out in one go, and I think it would be a perfect 1.5, but I'm thinking of tacking it onto the 3 campaign. So I'm not going to run a separate campaign. I don't want to run like 2.5 campaigns in a row and not let you guys get to the main story. I feel like that's a little messed up. So it'll be something that's tacked onto the 3 campaign, I think, right now. And but there won't be anything between 3 and 4. There will be a 4.5 though.
Okay. How about a 0.5?
Oh dear. Well, maybe. I learned to just never say never, because I was like, I'm not going to go back into a 1.5. And then like the other day, I'm just like, no, this is a perfect idea. I have to do this. So yeah.
Yeah.
You never know.
0.5s everywhere.
Yeah, 0.5s. I know, like, people have memed that to hell and back, but I mean, I think once you read this chapter, you'll really understand what I'm getting at. And 2.5 is Casimir's backstory. It takes place right after he escaped his hometown, after his hometown was destroyed by demons, and he, as far as he knows, was a sole survivor, and he was rescued by this hunter guy, and then he got to meet Ragna and the shamans of Thalfrin, and it's a story about how he survived after losing his family and how he found his way after that. And I think once you read it, you'll understand what these 0.5 stories are about. They're going to be similar to this going forward.
So at the end of 2, you have that almost an epilogue of the connection between Casimir and Ragna. Is that kind of the lead in then for 2.5?
Yeah, that was a preview pages for 2.5.
Okay.
Yep.
And do you have anything that you want to promote that's coming up soon, Renie?
Oh, let's see. I will have 2.5 on the website, so everybody can go check out fiendishcomic.com. It's a very nice website. I spent a lot of time on it, and I want everybody to take a look at it because I am paying for it. And also, you can order stuff on there. You can order merch. I have previews for the book for free on the Read the Comic tab. I have world building stuff. I have my constructed language. I have a world map and all kinds of other nerdy stuff on there for you to tide your time over while waiting for the next book. So it's fun site. Everyone go check it out. Oh, also I have a drawing competition. I shall pimp this. It will be Thursday night on Dark Gift channel, and I'm apparently going against Dillard because he challenged me. And
say its name.
I don't know what's gonna happen. It's cockfight, girls.
Cockfight.
So
yeah,
let's go see what happens. I have no idea what it's gonna actually be about, but let's go! Yay!
Oh no, Dillard's going down. Apparently.
Oh dear! I will do my best.
No, I have no idea who's gonna win this. I have no idea. It's two very talented artists. So
I mean, he's fast. Like I think, and he is legitimately really good.
He is also kind of a chameleon. He can do lots of different styles very well. So it depends on what you're drawing. I think it's going to come down to.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's true.
Yeah, I know. So I'm
are they gonna be doing a wheel
where
it's like, or a randomizer? Is it going to be something like?
I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
A
but
random
it's
topic and a random style. I think that'd be fun.
It's at least a wheel. Yeah, random topic would be cool, like a wheel. So we know it's 100% random.
Yeah, he said
show
it's
a random
be
topic
random on
and
the
a
show.
random style. I think that'd be force people into their. Don't just let them sit in their comfort zone. Do something wild.
Cool.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, every artist has their strengths and weaknesses, and every artist knows their own. And I'm just like, oh god, I hope he's into something that I'm not bad at. Oh, I'm so nervous, but it'll be fun.
He is a cocksmith, apparently. So
he is. Oh dear. Yes. Well.
And he's 40% faster.
He's like the blacksmith in your book who can forge 2 swords in an afternoon.
Yeah.
He's very fast.
Oh, he didn't forge the 2 swords after. It was just sharpening them and like adding, the hilt and everything. Michael doesn't believe me. Okay.
You've done well on Frag
I researched this.
Have you been on a Frag-a-Broom?
Oh, thank you.
Draw stream?
No,
yes,
not
one,
recently. It's been a while.
Yeah,
I didn't do the last.
You won the belt back in the day. That was Frega's show,
yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a while ago. I didn't do the last one because I was in Taiwan like the entire month. But yeah, that was fun. I like those drawing challenges though, because I think when you are forced to draw fast, have you guys noticed this? With almost the good ideas come out if you're just under pressure, and honestly, pressure is really. I'm sure for both I don't know about writers, but as an artist, I think sometimes when you're under a lot of pressure, it can either go really badly or really well. Like you either just totally crumble or you hit gold. And I like that excitement because you don't.
It does work with writing.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, like my stuff that won awards was stuff that I always like did right before turning it when I had like forever.
Uh-huh.
And that would always blow my mind. is like, oh, I completely forgot I needed to do this, so I better hurry up and do it. And that's the stuff that they liked.
Yeah. Oh, that's so
Kind of sucks
fascinating.
when you put your blood, sweat, and tears into something and you're like, wait a minute, but I won an award for something that I did the day of? What is this?
Yeah, it could almost be, well, you have to get it right so you don't overthink things. You're just like, okay, let's figure out, you have a clear image in your head and you don't overthink it and you just put it down on paper for both writing and art. I think that might be it.
I think my best one was I was supposed to write a short story in the style of a book we were supposed to have read. And I didn't read the book. And right before class, I wrote the short story. And that is the one that is when
Maybe the
the
writer is you
instructor
from
called
the
me up,
future.
right? The instructor called me up and I'm like, oh no, he knows I didn't actually read the dang book. Instructor calls me up and he's like, if you change this one little thing right here, I want to submit this to this one contest. I was like, are you serious?
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Raiden Radio says you should be the fastest, best, or the drunkest. So
Yes.
choose one.
I will endeavor to be at least one of these.
Bonus points if you're all three.
Yes. True.
That's
hard though.
yeah.
I can't see
Best
Renie
and drunkest.
being more belligerent than Dillard in this. I think he's going to be. He is going to bring the fire verbally. I feel.
He's gonna be belligerent, is he? Okay, I'm gonna see. All
I'm
right.
going to tell him to ask you about parasocial relationships. Really put you on the edge.
What?
He's
Oh,
gonna
he's gonna ask about parasocial. You're right. I'll just be totally
In the
I'll
most
just crumble and be
incredibly
like, oh,
awkward way possible.
Yeah.
Be very ham-fisted.
yeah. Just, get it in
no. I'll
there
just
all
get
awkward.
really drunk and babble my way through it.
Yeah. It's a winning strategy.
Eh.
Absolutely. I hear you're
just get drunk. That always works.
you're undefeated in these draw competitions, aren't you? You beat Aaron Lepresti, is that correct?
Yeah.
You won against Aaron.
No, I lost a few of them. And John beat me with the Halloween one a couple years ago.
Did he? I thought you beat him and then he kept the belt. Wasn't that the controversy there? Like he threw a little
No.
hissy fit and didn't want to give you your award or something.
No, he wouldn't give the belt back for months and months, but he did win. But because he drew something edgelordy, and won because of that, and it was also a character I didn't know. I drew the other drawing of like my kitty cat character eating his corpse as revenge because there was a second like follow draw stream. So yeah, so now we're even. But no, he won that one by being an edgelord. So yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a specialty. Did you beat Kelsey? Did you beat Kelsey as well?
Did I?
And
Oh, that was on Greybeards. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, there was another drawing stream on.
Damn,
allegedly, Greybeards is not a drawing competition. Allegedly,
right. It's not a drawing competition, right? But mine was pretty good. It was pretty good. We're doing Dark Crystal. I remember that. No, it was Jim Henson. Anything Jim Henson.
All right. I guess I'll end it there before I say anything else.
Okay.
We'll talk to you again.
Double dull. Well, Red, you can't dig any deeper.
No.
I know. I was expecting more tough questions about parasocial relationships and
I've got plenty, but apparently I'm very ham-fisted. I got to get these hams off of my fists.
Well, Red, you're going to come away from this review and interview with like some weird stuff about like what your search history must look like and the parasocial relationships.
Well, I mean, you want to see some like bad stuff? Look at the Chinese occupations of like the Philippines and what happened to women there.
Unfortunately, I know. I didn't know what I was walking into when I freaking typed in that one thing because I was thinking you were talking about like some weird, like a maid cafe, but like with barren fucking women or some shit.
No.
Like a love hotel with barren women. That's what I thought I was going to be looking for.
No.
I did not know that term.
My degeneracy is all within a historical context.
Oh my God.
It's healthy, highfalutin degeneracy, you know.
And it's healthy with a lot of
It's messed
quotations.
up.
I Google with like a
This dude
pipe
is so messed
and,
up.
you know. Yeah. So
He's only on
I'm
three of the available 12 watch lists. So it's
I'm a very snooty degenerate. Don't worry. Yeah.
Snooty degenerate.
I only Google with my pinky out, you know, sipping my brandy. All right.
This is getting very strange.
I like it here.
Yeah.
Well, as long as
Low-red
you're being
stream
snooty, it's
ender.
okay.
Exactly. You can get away with anything as long as you're snooty. You can be a cannibal, and they'll make a cannibal TV series about you.
Yeah, as long as you use the right forks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You just have to know your silverware placement.
Mhm.
All right, Renie, we'll talk to you again for 2.5, which I'm looking forward to because I'm really curious to see
Yeah.
how that
Okay.
all lays
Yeah.
out.
I'd love to see what you think about that. It'll be soon. We're fulfilling printing now, so it should be fulfillment in April. So I hope you guys enjoyed that book. And thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you. Well, thank you for the work that you did, and thank you for the great comic. It was wonderful to get a chance to catch up with you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Leave it there. Thank you for the reviewers.
Adorable. Like, I can't not smile ear to ear whenever I'm on a stream with Renie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're adorable.
Aw.
all right.
Thank you, Piper.
Too much.
Thank you, Bancroft. Thank you, Aldous. Thank you to the chat. So everybody have a
Thank
good
you
night.
already.
Yes, thank me. Thank me, everyone. Have a good night, everybody. Good night.
Good night. Bye.